Here's just a little agenda that we're going over. So we'll do some housekeeping, and then I'll tell you a little bit about our campaign, and then what this webinar is going to be about. And then we will introduce all the amazing panelists, and we will have about 15 minutes in the end for question and answer, and feel free to add them in the chat at any time. And then we'll close it out. All right, so for our housekeeping, the webinar will be recorded and made available on the UNSHAME Kentucky Facebook and YouTube pages, so keep a lookout for those. All attendees will be muted. Please use the question and answer panel at the bottom of your screen to ask questions, and then also, as I already said, the chat is also available for use. To adjust your view and see all speakers, panelists, click view in the top right corner of your screen, and then select speaker or gallery. Users can also select side-by-side view, and I'll be spotlighting the speakers today. So here's a little bit of an overview of our campaign. We are an evidence-based behavior change intervention aimed to reduce the addiction-related stigma held by Kentuckians. The campaign is delivered by Shatterproof. We are a national nonprofit committed to ending the addiction crisis in the United States, and we are in close partnership with CORE, which is the Kentucky Opioid Response Effort. This project is supported by CORE through the SAMHSA grant. A little bit more about today's webinar. So our three panelists, along with our moderator with various perspectives, will share both lived and professional experiences on this topic. Participants will take a journey through what it's like to experience stigma as a pregnant woman in recovery, including women who have used medication for opioid use disorder during pregnancy. Panelists will unpack ethical dilemmas in healthcare settings around pregnancy and substance use disorder, housing options for pregnant women in recovery, and there will be inspiring personal stories. At the end of the webinar, each participant will be able to identify resources and tools for pregnant and parenting women in recovery. So I'm going to introduce our moderator, Cynthia Robinson. Cynthia Robinson is a grateful person in long-term recovery from substance use. She's employed by Voices of Hope, a recovery community center based in Lexington, whom also has recovery coaches placed in many settings all around the beautiful state of Kentucky. Cynthia has had a lifelong passion for the medical field, with plans to one day become a nurse, until substance use changed the course of her life. Today, she is living two dreams. She is a recovery coach placed at Baptist Health Hospital in Lexington with the addictions team. She's happily married to her amazing wife, Caitlin, with whom she gets to experience the many blessings that recovery has to offer. Together, they share their 4 wonderful children. They're dog moms of 2 pitties and love spending time together and with their families. Both are pursuing their education. Cynthia has a goal to advocate for those still suffering in silence, the ones who are no longer with us, and to fight against the stigma surrounding substance use disorder. It does not matter how someone makes it into recovery or how they choose to stay in recovery. What matters most is they made it to recovery and they get a chance to learn to live a self-sustaining life. Couldn't have said it better. Now I'm going to turn it over to Cynthia to introduce our amazing panelists who I've had the opportunity to get to know a little bit or a lot, and they're just so amazing. So I'm turning it over to Cynthia now.
Thank you so much, and I'm so grateful to be here. I would like to introduce you all to Chelsea Gamboa. She is an adult peer support specialist for the University of Kentucky Psychiatry Department SMART Clinic. Chelsea works with women to help them get their recovery started and be reunified with their children. She helps them through the grief of losing their children and working on a case plan to regain custody back. Chelsea is the mother of 4 children and has been in recovery since October 12, 2018. She shares that she spent years away from her children and now has regained custody of them. In her free time, she likes to read and go fishing. And we're so happy to have you with us. Carrie Lane is the Director of Community Health and Forensics at River Valley Behavioral Health in Western Kentucky, facilitating behavioral health and rehabilitative services through various national, state, and local initiatives and programs. That's a mouthful. She serves as the program director for Roses for Moms, Recovery, Opportunity, Support, Empowerment, and Success, which serves pregnant and parenting women and their children using a holistic approach to recovery. She is the current chair of the Regional Reentry Intercept Collaborative, or RRIC, with local jails and community partners, and was previously a member of the UNSHAME Kentucky CIC. Carrie Lane has over 25 years of experience working with the justice involved individuals. She was a former correctional sergeant and a registered nurse. She holds an associate's degree in nursing, a bachelor's degree in emergency services management, and a master's degree in healthcare administration. She is also a mother of four, two college bound students, and two who have served in the U.S. Armed Forces, and she's a grandmother. We're so glad to have you. Ashley McDonald will be celebrating 4 years in recovery in August of this year. She works at Voices of Hope in Lexington at the Recovery Community Center. Ashley primarily works with women with substance use disorder. They are in the reproductive age range who are pregnant, postpartum, planning a pregnancy, or trying to prevent an unintended pregnancy. She focuses on linking these women to compassionate care, providing support and helping women take control of their reproductive health by starting the conversations about their needs. Ashley has a 6-year-old son that was born dependent on opiates, and she loves sharing her story and experiences with parenting in recovery. We're glad to have you, Ashley. So, to start out, if someone would like to go ahead and tell about your personal experience that shaped your perspective on pregnancy and substance use disorder.
Hi, my name is Ashley. As my bio stated, I'm a person in recovery. My son was born dependent on opiates. He's 6 years old now. And kind of what helped to shape my, compassion about, women in recovery and substance use disorder and pregnancy. Even though I was somebody that dealt with substance use disorder, I always had that thought that I don't care if I found out I was pregnant tomorrow, I would stop doing drugs now. Like there's no way I would be using drugs while pregnant until I found myself in that situation. I was a very sick person, very sick. I didn't know about resources in the community that helped women that were pregnant. I didn't know a lot about MOUD medications, programs. So I think just being a person that dealt with substance use disorder in pregnancy is kind of shaped my perspective on that.
Thank you, Ashley.
So I'm going to go off what Ashley said. I have two older children that I secretly used opioids with while I was pregnant with them. And I was ashamed of it. And I should have never left the hospital with them. But then, like 14 and 12 years ago, they weren't really testing the meconium or testing the baby's poop. And I had a third child that I was in the methadone clinic with because I finally got honest with my doctor. And I ended up going to jail while I was pregnant with him, and I gave him up for adoption. I was fearful of being honest about my use because of the judgment that came along with it. And that's what caught my interest in wanting to be more involved in it, because I didn't want women to feel the way that I felt while I was doing the same thing.
Thank you, Chelsea. Caroline?
Hi. I grew up in a gang neighborhood in Chicago where there was a lot of drug use surrounding the area. Then eventually I started working for the Department of Corrections and worked in corrections for 22 years. So I came in direct contact with individuals who were going through a tough time, who were pregnant, who were using substances and trying to manage and cope with all the issues that they were facing, while also, wanting to get back out into the community. So I kind of it drew my passion for helping and getting involved in the different aspects, and including being a mother. I was a mom. I had 2 children while working in corrections, and I went through personal issues during my pregnancies, working in that environment, but also facing the realities of the situation surrounding where I was, and just coming into contact with just amazing people who are just trying to get their leg back up in life, and come out better than what they were coming in with. So that kind of brought out the passion. And then now working for the department, working for River Valley Behavioral Health, I work towards helping individuals who are in the community who are struggling with substance use and opioid use, gain their footing again, try to get their kids back, working into helping them, seeing what their needs are, and helping to connect and streamline processes so they're able to engage their family again. They're able to live a productive life, or try to go back to school, or just get an apartment, even have those family connections once again. So it's a very passionate subject.
Thank you all for sharing that. I didn't have a child in recovery. Like, my addiction started after I had my first son. And then, years later, I thought I was done having kids, and I wound up pregnant. And it was the start of my addiction switching over to a more powerful substance. And I already, did not want to go to the doctor at all. I didn't want to go to no hospital because I already knew like what I was going to be labeled as. So when I finally did make it to the doctor, they ended up finding out, I'm on opiates, and I didn't go like I should have. I did end up going on a Friday up here to the in Lexington to the high risk doctor, and I found out that my daughter was breech, and I ended up losing her on Sunday. And I blame myself, a lot, that it was my drug use, but it wasn't. It was my placenta ruptured, and I just didn't make it in time. And I had an emergency C-section. I almost died as well. That was a very hard time, and of course I numbed it with all the substances in the world. But today I'm able to talk about her. I'm able to tell people my experience, and I know that she's with me, So, and now that I'm working in the hospital, I haven't seen very many pregnant women come in yet with substance use disorder. Very happy about that, obviously, but this hospital is so welcoming to the patients that are struggling. And I know that I get to be here to help with that if a pregnant woman does come in. So, very grateful. Okay, so we're going to move on to some questions, and anybody can answer. What are some common challenges pregnant people with substance use disorder face when they're seeking support or treatment?
Judgment, the stigma that comes along with it. Like you said earlier, we're labeled. It doesn't matter what we've been through. We're a statistic that says we're, I don't like to use this word, a junkie or a pillhead. And we can't seem to break that stigma that comes along with it. Like, even the women I work with today come in and they talk about themselves like, I'm always going to be this junkie, or I'm always going to be this pillhead. And it's sad to hear them talk about themselves like that because of everything that they've overcome. You are not that person. You're better than that. And trying to build them up as women and as individuals and as mothers, and show them you are a different person.
I have to agree with Chelsea. I know in my experiences, the stigma and judgment was a big part for me. I think also just like some other barriers, transportation, housing, just like common barriers that everybody else faces in recovery with substance use disorder. Some of these women are homeless, or they could be in, bad situations where the people that they're staying with are also using substances. So just having a safe place and just those basic necessities. A lot of women don't have those either. So just making sure, that those don't become barriers anymore. And, like Chelsea was saying, just the stigma and the judgment that we place on ourselves is a big barrier as well.
Absolutely. Those are really good points. And there wasn't all these resources, like it's so amazing to get to see the recovery community grow into what it is today. Like we've got so much more to go, but it's changed. And we talk about that all the time. Like we're in jails and hospitals, and it's just, it's amazing. Okay, so how do you believe stigma impacts pregnant individuals specifically?
Well, I think there's stigma from individuals, there's institutional stigmas that come along with it, there's stigma through the associations, like providers or people that don't want to see us because we are drug addicts or have an opioid use disorder, and then our internalized stigma because we are our worst critic. Like nobody can hurt me as bad as I can hurt myself.
I would say just the misconceptions and the misunderstandings within just the whole spectrum. As providers, you would think that it's in our innate nature to be open to anyone who walks in the door. But then sometimes you find that some may not be open to that for whatever various reasons. But it just increases, and what you said earlier about, just the ability to talk about it now versus maybe years back. There's more people involved, there's more community members involved, there's more openness to talk about that, but the stigma still, it plays a large role in just either seeking out help or providing it. And that is something that we constantly need to work towards. And some of the challenges may be just trying to maybe accept where you're at that moment and make the changes within, whether it be the organizational standpoint or the individual standpoint, and kind of create the conversation within yourself. If it's regarding yourself, where do I want to change? What do I kind of identify in myself that I'm creating this stigma with myself? And then on the organizational standpoint is how can we impact, or how can we create the opportunity within our staff, within our organization, to talk about what these stigma are and how do we decrease it? How can we be proactive in creating an environment that is not only warm and inviting to our participants that come in, or to our clients that come in, but to our staff, so we can mitigate some of their insecurities and their misconceptions of what substance use is, or opioid use, or a pregnant woman with a child in the process of recovery. That is a challenging question for many because of their own perceptions of what motherhood should look like.
Yes, thank you. That was amazing. That is a great answer. Thank you so much for that. Okay, what are some systemic challenges pregnant individuals with substance use disorder encounter in accessing holistic recovery services?
That is a good one. And one that the previous question kind of segued into. So some of those challenges it's various. So let's say a woman is in substance use, needing to receive services, and she's pregnant. And then some facilities are not capable of providing that because they're not structured to provide that service, because one, they're going to need a nurse. Just the resources that needs isn't there for that location. So they have to kind of look towards a source or a resource that has that holistic approach or has the capabilities of providing not only the help to the mother, but also to the child, because the child's going to need some services as well. And then getting that person connected towards her other needs, whether it be education, whether it be a home, whether it be if she has some issues with DCBS custody issues or family because of broken relationships or relationships that were never cemented. So when they're going through those difficult challenges, they're not able to get the resources. But also on the state level, whether it be, this state or any state, putting things in place for those connections to take place, for them not to worry so much on the financials that are related to that, because one of the biggest barriers is the financial one. How do you reach out for help when you can't afford your medical bill that's going to come from it, or birthing your child, and maybe those needs related to that child after birth? That's a big impact on that for a mom. I mean, it's even for a mom who's not in substance use, it's difficult to process. Imagine someone who is in substance use or in the process of recovery and trying to regain their life back. It's very challenging. And I think those systems need to be more proactive in engaging just the different elements to create that possibility for that mom to feel like there is a light at the end of that tunnel. There is a way of getting the help that I need if I'm reaching out for help, not only for myself, but the child that I'm bringing into the world or that I have, and those other children involved in that family. So it's not just her in recovery, it's everyone around her who is in recovery with her. And even her community, if she doesn't have a family, her community, her family is her community. So how do we empower our community to be that family or be that support for her? So there's a lot of challenges, but there's also a lot of proactive people out there trying to get those challenges and putting things in place.
Absolutely. We always hear it takes a village, and I tell you, it takes a whole village to help somebody. It truly does. Okay, so how do you tailor your support approach for pregnant individuals with substance use disorder compared to others in recovery?
I would say just speaking to these women in a more softer way, really watching and being cognizant of the language that we use. Because a lot of times, I know, at least for me, when I was pregnant and dealing with substance use disorder, I was scared. I was alone. The only other people that I had in my support circle were other people that were actively using. So I didn't really have anybody that could offer a good amount of support. So just making sure that we provide as much support and wraparound services. So not only making sure that their health and medical needs are taken care of, but also making sure that their housing, transportation, just making sure that they know about all the resources that we have in the community.
All of what Ashley said. We here want you to feel valued, respected, and loved, regardless of the choices that are being made. Like we help you find housing. We work with the social workers to help you in any barrier that you might need, because like a lot of people don't want to talk to social workers when they're dealing with them, just because of everything that's going on. A lot of times they're not very pleasant, and they just do make you feel judged or do make you feel uncomfortable. And we want you to know, like, whether or not you're using, you matter, your health matters, your pregnancy matters, your child matters. We just want you to feel loved and understood, and it's okay.
I would just mention also for organizations and for people providing help, being trauma informed is very important in that element. It's knowing that the person that you're coming into contact with, or the persons that you're trying to engage in different ways, they have their story, and it's an individual one. It's one that we may, again, and we've talked about it in the past, we may have similarities, but not every story is the same. So it's, if you try to build a structured way of doing things, not every structure fits to every person. So we have to be more mindful of just broadening that scope and engaging in person-centered approaches, that it's more personalized to the individual that we are coming in contact with, because their needs may be different than someone else's needs. And helping them in their process is unique to them and their family and their child and their situation. So I would just say that.
Those are all great answers. And you kind of touched base on this just now with the trauma-informed care. So how do you, how can we integrate that like better like into our support services for pregnant or postpartum women in recovery?
I would say that women don't specifically have to share like or disclose specific things traumatic that have happened to them. Be very positive and welcoming, have a very comforting, welcoming environment. Like, it's so hard because what you said, that we all been through unique situations and you don't know what somebody is going through. And it's like the old saying, just be kind, meet somebody where they're at.
And
I
you
would
said,
say
go ahead. You said it very well, Chelsea. It's that meeting people where they're at, and knowing you don't have to know their whole story to know that we've all experienced something in our past. We've all gone through it, whether it be, in childhood or adulthood. We've all gone through something. And trauma informed is just knowing that the person that you're talking to and the person that is reaching out for help has gone through something. You don't know what it is, but they've gone through something, and it's having that empathy, and it's having that connection to just being a person talking to another person, not necessarily because they've used substances, they turn into a whole different human being. No, in the foundation of it all, we are all humans. We are social beings. We are people who want to belong, who want to have communication, and who want to have the ability to interact with one another. And just getting back to those basics of just having that can help you so much in your communication, and can help you so much in that person just sharing what their needs are, and reaching out for help. Because if you build a barrier, I mean, who is going to reach out? If you're using a lot of stigma words, if you're using a lot of if your organization is not capable of releasing some of those stigmas, or maybe you don't necessarily know that a certain picture or a certain drawing or something in your area can create stigma. If you can't realize that, then it's harder for you, for the person who's reaching out for help, to reach out, because they're already seeing the stigma all around them. So it creates a barrier. So go ahead, Ashley, sorry.
I was just going to say, creating a safe space where those conversations can happen, if the person feels comfortable. I know a lot of times I didn't feel comfortable or safe disclosing certain things. So just making sure that you're providing that safe, comfortable environment, that you're welcoming. And I'll also say, just like educating yourself on trauma-informed care and having a really good understanding of what that really means, and kind of how that intersects with women that are pregnant. Because a lot of women, we have, at least in my history of substance use disorder, I have a lot of symptoms due to my substance use disorder, sexual assaults, neglectful abuse, domestic violence. I have a background, that's got a lot of trauma in it. So just making sure that, you're aware and you're educated on how you can kind of help these women.
Absolutely. How do you approach supporting pregnant individuals with substance use disorder in rebuilding relationships and creating a supportive environment for their families?
It's really great being in a role of a peer support specialist because we kind of have a special relationship and like a certain rapport with a lot of our women that we deal with that maybe a normal therapist or social worker might not be able to have because we have these lived experiences. So a lot of times what I do is, I kind of open up to these women and I share my experiences of being a person with substance use disorder that is now a person in recovery whose son was born dependent on opiates. I was an IV drug user my entire pregnancy. And, I like to disclose that to them and let them know that they're not alone, that I've been through similar things. And that it shouldn't be embarrassing or shameful to talk about it. There shouldn't be stigma around it. We're people that are trying to access healthcare. And obviously, if we're accessing care, we're trying to do the best we can with what we've got in that situation that we're in there. So just kind of, opening up about my experiences, sharing those with the women that I come in contact with my history with substance use disorder and pregnancy and just kind of my lived experiences.
So one of the things we found, and one of our programs is directed in this, it's specifically directed in this approach, is knowing what resources are available and connecting those resources, having those lists of resources and knowing where to make these connections. So every individual that you come in contact with, it is that person-centered approach, and it is offering that opportunity to learn about that person, learn about what their needs are, talk to them, make sure that they feel that they're comfortable enough to engage in the next facet of their lives or get to those services and connections. A lot of the activities we do are family approach. So we do family nights where the person in recovery is sitting and sharing information with their family. They're participating in their recovery and also teaching the family about what recovery is. Because some of the times, the person might be in recovery, but the family doesn't know what that looks like. And it's hard for them to relate, and it's hard for them to understand where those moments where, you're feeling frustrated, your anxiety is going up, and you're just feeling some kind of way, but your family doesn't understand what that looks like and cannot, they don't know how to help. So teaching the family members while you're also engaging in that family support just creates a better and a holistic way of just the process of recovery in general, just the whole gambit of just having everyone together and it's building that recovery community together with family. And it makes people feel they're part of something. They're helping in the process. But the loved one that's in recovery, it shows that, they're cared about, that they're important, that they're loved, that they have that support behind them, and that there are a beautiful human being that just needs a chance to grow.
That was beautiful. And Ashley, I totally agree with you. It's kind of like when we go, into somebody's hospital room and we announce that, okay, we're the addictions team, but guess what? We're all in recovery. It's kind of like they're like this, and then it's kind of like, okay. And then they'll set up and then they'll engage with us. And just even seeing that, it's just a beautiful thing because we can build that rapport. It's like, I don't know, because Carrie Lynn, you're a nurse and you're so educated on this, and that's a beautiful thing too. We need more of that because like I was once in nursing school and they didn't teach all of this in nursing school, in 2001.
That it's the empathetic side of things. It's like one of you mentioned, I think it was Chelsea. It's getting to their level, knowing what it's like. Again, we've all faced a situation in our lives that have been difficult, whether it be a traumatic incident, whether it be someone in our family who's used substances, or whether somebody in our family that's gone through a difficult time. We've all grieved at one point or another, and we've all processed, emotions in one way or another. And it's just getting back to, learning what that emotion is in the other person. And just knowing that if they're hurting, we all know what hurt is. So why can't we use that, knowing what we know, why can't we use that when we're interacting with others who are hurting or who are confused or who are going through a process that is difficult? I mean, recovery is difficult because it takes them away from, a way that they were living prior to that. And it's challenging, but it's so beneficial to everyone around them and to them and to you guys. I'm sorry. And to you all. Uh, and it's just, I don't know. I'm very passionate in that area where I just, I want to hug on everybody. That's kind of what I am. So I kind of breathe that to everywhere I go. So
It takes that passion for sure. Okay, Carrie Lynn, this one is for you. How do you advocate for pregnant individuals with substance use disorder within the justice system to ensure they receive appropriate support and treatment?
well, that's a good one. I worked previous to this position I have now with River Valley Behavioral Health. I worked in corrections for over 22 years. Um, and being in that environment, I came day-to-day contact with moms who were either had older children, or moms that were pregnant, or moms that just had a baby, and now DCBS has taken custody of them, but they still have to stay within the Department of Corrections, and because of the other issues that are pending with the court system. And within all of that, having great communications with those entities, with the court system, with the Department of Corrections, with the local jails, and with community. Just all those connections is important to engage, not only helping while they're in there and creating a safer environment for just sharing information with the leadership of those facilities, because they might not know all the answers, or they don't have the capability of having those resources available to them at those facilities. So creating those conversations, but also, being open to, and just like in substance use, a person who has gone to jail for one reason or another does not mean that that person is not someone that you can help. That doesn't mean that that person doesn't have a whole life ahead of them. It just means that they made a judgment error, or a mistake, or however you want to name it. Something happened that they reached that point where they were just involved, but that doesn't take away from who they are as an individual, who they are as a person, who they are as a human. And just giving them the opportunity to have resources at their disposal, that they can choose what life they wish to lead after that. But creating those communications, those collaborations, and just engaging the individuals while they're incarcerated, or in those environments, whether it be the court system or in the incarcerated system, and helping them in their process towards the outer community is very important as well. And us as a community, building those supports. So when we do come across someone who's just as involved, we're not pointing the finger that, oh, well, you did this, you did that, or you're using, and why did you do this? And instead of saying, what are you doing to your child? Because it's accusatory too, and you see that a lot when they're accusing. It's like, oh, well, why is she using substance? She knows she's pregnant. Oh, and now she got in trouble because she's in the court system, or now she got in trouble because, this and that. And they become isolated, and they become, everybody's pointing fingers instead of asking the question, what happened? Instead of saying, what did you do? Why did you do this? What happened? How can I help you? How can I what can I find that at my disposal that I can facilitate what your needs are? Or who can I reach out to help you in that process to get to the needs that because not every organization is going to provide anything under the sun. We have to communicate as a community. Like, I can provide a service, or the other organization can provide a service, but knowing your other resources, that you can do that warm handoff to the next service that can help that person is important as well. And just as involved individuals that are pregnant, even more so, because of the justice involvement plus the substance use that goes along with it. So I often kind of say it's kind of like a double whammy because there, it's stigma on both sides of the spectrum, and then just having that difficulty for the acceptance and just knowing that they're just someone who just wants to have a productive life or have the opportunities that everyone else has.
Yes, thank you for that. It's amazing how just changing the language and changing the narrative of how you approach somebody, it just makes all the difference in the world. Like, okay, I tell you, this is great. We could talk about this, I think, for like a week, though. All right, what strategies do you use to combat stigma for pregnant people?
I think you are not what they say you are. Like just being as supportive as possible, like all the resources. Because I know with our new moms with the cases, when they come in and they have an active case plan and they've been removed from their child, like we help them set up visits with them. Like if they need diapers, they need clothes, if they need clothes, or if they need an Uber to get to their visit and an Uber back, we help support that to help break that barrier to transportation that Ashley was saying, or the fact that they don't have the money to get their children clothes or to get them clothes or to feed them. Like we even buy food for them so that they have food and they're sober living or food on them, or like even like gift cards sometimes to just know that they have something in their pocket. If they need something, they can get it for them or their children.
I would definitely say educating the community on substance use disorder just as a whole and how it relates to pregnancy is a big way to combat stigma, because society and people have these preconceived notions of substance use disorder and what that looks like, and sometimes those aren't always true, those stereotypes. So just kind of just continue to educate the community and the people on healthcare and just the average person on substance use disorder and pregnancy as a whole, because I don't think there's nearly as much education on substance use disorder and pregnancy together.
Yeah. And I would also say normalizing the conversation. You normalize it for high blood pressure. You normalize it for diabetes. You normalize it for just an array of different other conditions. Why not normalize the conversation when it comes to substance use, or when it comes to substance use with mothers? Um, it No one chooses one way or another for like, we can't predict what's going to happen in our lives, right? We can't look at the crystal ball and say, well, this is my future. This is what it's going to look like, right? So we all go through challenges in lives, and just those array of different circumstances that is individualized again, um and if we just kind of normalize the conversation regarding substance use, um and maternal health, because maternal health, it's an element in itself, and then the addition of substance use just it's kind of gets upon that. But normalizing those conversations that you can go anywhere, and if you have a doubt, question, or concern about your pregnancy while you're in substance use, have someone there to help you process that, because maybe you are still using, and that's a personal choice, that is something that organizations and facilities should be able to kind of understand. And community learning, teaching your community is very important, educating your community on what that looks like, because yeah, it takes a while for someone to make the choice of going into recovery. That doesn't happen right away. It doesn't happen like, oh, today I found out pregnant, tomorrow I'm going to stop. It's a challenging moment, and it's one that takes time to kind of wrap yourself around, and what does that look like to you, and what does that look like to your child. It takes a moment. We can't just expect moms to quickly decide, hey, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. No, we're humans, and we have to process information. And when we process information, we don't always process it the same. Some individuals take longer than others to make a choice. We all do that on a regular basis. Even with substance use, it's the same. You know, we make the choices, or we decide to get help when you feel comfortable to do that. When you're open enough to make that determination whether I'm going to go get help. So today, you know, it could be a week away, it could be 2 weeks away, it could be 3 months away. That is a choice on the person, on the individual to decide. And you can throw out all the resources, but when you get to the bottom line, until that person feels comfortable, and until they reach the moment that they can choose to go into recovery and accept that, it's something that we as a community need to wrap ourselves around as well. So not pushing that conversation, not, you know, trying to force certain situation. It's trying to provide information while you're also being the empathetic ear, while you're also being informed on how to engage, so that, you know, they're more willing to participate in their own recovery and in that own process. But also us as organizations be more open to those conversations, and our community to be more informed, so stigma is not a factor, and it becomes a regular conversation, and one that can be just brought up in a bigger scope. I guess that's what I want to say.
That was wonderful. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the questions and answers. We do already have one question. It is, I'm male, deaf certified PSS. Okay, so Ron Morrow, he is from the deaf community, and he would like to know how can he contact, like if any deaf ladies need help. Like, I know that Voices of Hope has the ability to provide an ASL interpreter, but are there any other resources that we can get to him?
We do. We have an ASL interpreter here too, that he is more than welcome to have our information. We have several different tracks other than just the parenting track here, so it's for anyone. We have another addiction, our parenting track, that mainly is just women and children, or women that are like in childbearing age that want to have children and haven't necessarily had them yet. And we have grandparents that have custody of their children that we see too, of their grandchildren. And then we have the MOUD and the other addiction track. So we would have an ASL interpreter come too that could get a hold of them and talk with them.
Yeah, I would say we do as well. And we also, now that you've talked about languages, we do provide classes as well in both languages. So we provide resources and information in Spanish and English for individuals that speak dual languages, or if they speak a different language, we get the information regarding whatever language they need information on.
That's amazing. Trying to hit every community, ain't we? Okay, so we got about 10 minutes left. I will ask one more question because I think this one's very important. How do you prioritize self-care while supporting others, especially pregnant individuals navigating recovery?
That one can be a challenging one for a lot of people because of the empathy. Sometimes empathy can lead you to absorb a lot of the information that you're taking. One of the things that I do in our organization, I do a lot of self-care activities. So that's one of the things that I do, and I also do it. I also provide those at our different locations. And some of the things that you can do is take time for yourself. Like when you're providing services, if you have 15 minutes, then take your 15 minutes to do something different. Have some decorate your area, which is another one. Keep your environment around you, whether it be your office space, and you're listening to a lot of the heaviness that comes with this topic, especially maternal health, along with the substance use. It can become very heavy, and if they're sharing traumatic events that have happened in the past, can be very heavy. So changing the lighting in your room where you can either lower the light or make it brighter when you're seeing someone, decorating your office space that it's warm, and having some things at your disposal, whether it be a fidget, whether it be a coloring item, whether it be some beads or something that you can kind of do a little mini creation while you're processing some of the heaviness. Um, and then when you kind of leave home, I mean, when you kind of leave work to go home, have that space in between, whether it be a longer drive or maybe taking a different route just to decompress some of that information that you're absorbing, especially if you're a peer support or you've been through that experience before and you're listening to some of this of the new information. It's also you reminding you of your past, just creating those different elements to help you process all that heaviness that you're feeling.
I get off early on Fridays and I go eat by myself a good meal with no kids and no husband for an hour and a half just to decompress. Like I work in AA program, so I call my sponsor and sometimes she'll meet me there, or I'll go meet her after I go eat to do some step work. Like that's being in this field is hard because it's emotionally draining and it can trigger some of the trauma like that I've been through with the domestic violence and the sexual assaults and losing your children, but watching the women regain custody of their children back is one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever got to witness. And I'm grateful I get to be there to watch it and help them work their plan and do that.
Yeah, kind of like what Chelsea was saying, like every week I try to just do something for me. I used to be under the impression that like self-care was like going to get your hair done or, having to spend a lot of money. And that's not the case. Just doing something for yourself, even just like listening to a song that you enjoy, that kind of helps you decompress, anything that's going to help you rejuvenate yourself, recharge your batteries. So I like to kind of go for a walk. That's my thing. I like going for a walk, and just knowing and prioritizing it and knowing how important it is. It is like the number one key. Just knowing that you are important yourself and you can't pour from an empty cup. So you can't pour into somebody else if you're not full. So just making sure that you're full and that you're taken care of as well.
Absolutely. I know a lot of times I drive back to Frankfurt in silence and just trying to like shake the day. And self like awareness, I think, is huge. You got to know like what's going on inside you. Like you said, you cannot pour from an empty cup. It's impossible. We have to keep ourselves okay so we can be available to help others. And I think we might turn it over to Ashley so she can close us out. Thank all of you so much for this.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. I was trying to figure out how to spotlight myself, so Taylor, if you can do that, that'd be great. But hopefully y'all can hear me still. We would love for you to be involved in our Unshame Kentucky campaign. There are a lot of ways to get involved, and this can be through story sharing. So right now you heard a lot of amazing stories of women in recovery or experience substance use disorder and pregnancy. And we're looking for stories like these, people to share and inspire others. And so you can do that. You can become a community partner with us, and you can find out all the details of this on our website, unshameky.org. But you can also email me at ariley@shatterproof.org, which is, you can see on the screen here. And if you want to get in touch with any of these amazing panelists, also feel free to email me and I can do that for you. Again, I just want to thank the panelists. This has been an amazing, informative webinar. I know for myself, I've learned a lot, and I'm always inspired by people who really get vulnerable and share on these topics that are, there is so much stigma, and you go through so much with the stigma. And as a person in recovery myself, I know a little bit what that's about. So thank you again, and thank you everyone for showing up. And feel free to leave some positive encouragement in the chat. And this webinar will also be posted on YouTube and Facebook, so you can watch it again or share it with your network. So thank you very much. You can end the recording now, Taylor. I think you have to do it.